There we go.
Okay. Round 2. Here we go. Here we go.
Here we go. Like, where do we go from here?
I don't know. I have like stage fright all of a sudden, or like shock. I'm still. So you guys, if you were with us for our previous showing, thanks for sticking around and welcome back. Let's get into it. Yay. Joanna said the audio is fantastic. Woo!
Woo! I bet you're wondering.
Lot of troubleshooting to be done. Very, very glad that my partner knows about stuff, because wouldn't you know, it was like a wire that had gotten overly used.
It was sadly not one of those cases of like turn it on, turn it back off, or whatever. The opposite of that, I guess. It was.
Yeah, that's the end of my
troubleshooting is.
Yeah. I'm like, did you turn it off and on? Yeah? I don't know then. So, oh my gosh, how cute.
That's my little brother.
Oh, hi, Dennis. Oh my God. That is so sweet.
It's my little brother. He hung on through the first one. He has never gotten to listen to us before, and I asked if he wanted to check us out live. So he said he would.
Yay. Well, welcome, Dennis. Awesome to have you here. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's just dive right in, because I'm ready. First, I see what mug you're using. I think you should show.
Oh, yeah. Today is a perfect day for this, right?
Yeah. Ooh. Back the fuck up, sprinkle tits. Today is not the day. I will shank you with my horn. I gave that to you for Christmas.
You did.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go. Let's, you guys, this is going to be pretty traditional podcast style, because we are making this for the podcast. So please go ahead and fire away in the chat, but it's not going to be a super interactive episode. We've got a lot of ground to cover. Bombshells in episode 1. I haven't even watched episode 2 yet. And Fallon, I know that you've got some pretty crazy stuff to tell me too. So today we are talking about the prison confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, which is on Lifetime, which I'm sure they paid her a solid chunk, but it's just it's a pretty obscure channel. So, well, I don't think obscure is the right word. Like, Lifetime's huge, but it's not on. I think you have to like have Lifetime app to watch Lifetime. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right?
It's not an easy channel to get to.
No. I had to subscribe to cable.
Me too.
This shit. So you guys are welcome. Yeah, so we knew that not everybody would be able to access the documentary, and, well, we've both been following this case for quite a long time, are super interested in the psychology of it, and are excited to share with you guys what we learned, because the first half I was like, yeah, okay, nothing really new. I mean, I know this stuff. And then
drop the bombs. I mean,
fuck me, dude.
Woo.
Ugh. So here we go. me. Pardon. You know, let me give it one more solid clear. Okay. All right. Hey, everybody. Hey, you guys. Welcome back to the podcast. This is yet another bonus episode, because is this a bonus episode? I actually don't even know anymore. I've changed the production schedule so many times in the last couple of days. I don't even know like what is bonus content and anymore, and what's real. No, this is bonus. if you're listening to the podcast, this is coming out on Saturday the 13th. So
That's
if you're
right.
watching on the YouTube, great fucking choice. You're getting the content way earlier. I think I actually might drop a little something on the feed just saying like, "What's up, you guys? We have the
The Gypsy Rose case
it's
co-
up. Like it's available." Well,
coming to you hot.
or maybe we'll try something new and keep it like really tight. And then the
Mm.
editors have to do very little. And maybe we could even put it out sooner. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So maybe I'll raise my hand when I want to ask a question so we don't. Oh, no, because they can cut now. But
Yes, yes, yes. It's great. Now, before we couldn't get separate tracks on StreamYard. So it was kind of like, ooh, do we lose some sound quality for the sake of YouTube or whatever? And now we've solved that. So yay. So yeah. But sure, if you feel that a little hand raise is appropriate for the moment, go for it. So I covered episode 1, and I am going to tell you about it, even though you also watched it, because we're here to discuss and to tell our fine viewers and listeners what the fuck happened. So last night premiered episode 1, Born a Prisoner. And the episode starts off. So this whole series is primarily interviews with Gypsy from prison. It's also interviews with some of her family and stuff like that. But it's mostly, obviously, you know, by the title, the prison confessions of Gypsy Rose. What first impressions? How are you feeling about it?
I like hearing it all right from her, not from some like documentary voiceover or, people that aren't her. I also think she's incredibly well spoken, and it's just listening to her kind of dissect things as she goes is so interesting. Like when the producers will say, "Hey, so what about this?" And she'll be like, "What?" Like that's crazy to me.
Yeah, she's learning things about her own life from the producers as she goes. It's crazy. And yeah, she's incredibly well spoken. She seems very emotionally intelligent.
Mhm.
Um, I
She's
think
had 10 years to think through, so I'm
eight.
sure. Oh,
Eight.
8,
Yeah.
technically 8, yeah. So,
But that's a lot of time. And I'll say that one of the things that really hit me in this documentary is she said that the best day of her life so far, and I think this was before she got married. I think she was just engaged at this point, maybe,
mhm.
because that might be kind of a bummer thing to hear. As your husband is like, best day of my life was the day that I went into prison. Then the day I got married was pretty dope too. But she said that the best day of her life was the day she went into prison because she felt that was the first time she felt free. And I
I
think I
know.
cried.
Even my husband sitting next to me was like, "Wow." Like he was pretty blown away. Like that should say something.
Yeah. So I think that she's obviously getting a lot of support, but she's getting a lot of hate and a lot of very simplistic, oh, you killed your mom and point, period, blank, done, that's bad. And I think that there are people who are doing a lot of speculating and a lot of rumors are being thrown around as facts, and that's definitely not something that we are here for at That's So Fucked Up. So
Mhm.
yeah, like you said, I really liked hearing things in her words from her because honestly, I'm kind of a little bit tired of all the fucking TikTokers and stuff who think that they're experts and are connecting the dots. TikTok is the end of society. It is a shit show. Like, I think it's the worst thing that's happened to us. But you know what? That's not why we're here. Okay. Let's get into the episode. So, guys, as you know, this is That's So Fucked Up. I'm your host, Ashley Love Richards, one of them. This is my other one.
Fallon Mori, the other one.
Hey,
Hey, yo.
the other one. So, yes, we are talking about right now episode 1, and let's get into it. Like I said, it's called Born a Prisoner, which is pretty fitting. So we start the documentary hearing from Gypsy. She says that her mother controlled everything. There was a lot of emotional abuse in addition to the physical abuse. And towards the end, she started to feel like it was either her. Towards the end, she started to feel like it was either her or Dee Dee, which have I said it to you that like I felt that Dee Dee's end game, or do we agree on that?
We talked about it on our live last weekend. When we talked about her, we that's what we were saying. Like, I'm sure she felt that it was her or her mom.
Yeah.
Wow.
So confirmed, we called it.
Nailed it.
I mean, we might be experts, but listen, we're not. Okay.
We're not actually.
We're actually not. In 2015, Gypsy was arrested for the murder of her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, and pled guilty to second-degree murder the next year in 2016. And at the time that the documentary was being produced, it was December of 2021. So obviously, everything that she's saying is even a couple years before now. So looking at how emotionally mature and eloquently and intelligently she speaks in this documentary, knowing that was 2 years ago, holy shit, I've grown a lot in the last 2 years. Like a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
I know.
And I still have a lot to do.
I say that about like you, like, oh yeah, I know. I didn't mean it like that. But yes, I agree with you. I think I've grown in the last 2 years.
I mean, hopefully, if you're not growing, you should probably look within yourself and start trying to.
Yes.
Yay, therapy. Anyways, it says that producers have spent 18 months interviewing Gypsy in prison. Gypsy says, ever since I came to prison, everything I've done is to get paroled. Today is the day before my parole hearing, and I'm anxious and nervous because, and I'm paraphrasing, you guys. I'm anxious and nervous because there's no shot after this. She doesn't have for some reason, she doesn't have the ability to have multiple parole hearings. It's this one. Maybe she's had them in the past. I don't know.
Also, her sentence was 10 years total. So if she got to 8 years, it's possible that they're not going to give her one at 9. It might be like every 2 years or something.
Okay. Yeah. Because she says there's no chance for multiple parole hearings, just the one tomorrow. And the parole hearing that was to follow the next day would determine her fate as to whether she'd be released in December of 2023, which I'm pretty sure you are all aware she was.
Yes.
If anybody's watching or listening is like, what? Come
Welcome,
on, man.
Guys.
Welcome to Earth. Hey, what's up? No, I've never seen any true crime phenomenon like this. Have you?
No. I mean, maybe the closest thing to somebody following this story would probably be O.J. Simpson as it was unfolding, but it was before social media followers and whatever, but it was like non-stop coverage. I mean, his whole court trial was like on camera all the time.
Was that kind of when the 24 our news cycle kind of started.
I don't know if it's when the news cycle started, but it's definitely one of the first, I think, camera into the courtroom, because then I remember, a couple years later, more than a couple years later, watching Jodi Arias's court trial, like big pieces of that aired consistently. But I think that's probably the closest thing to a true crime phenomenon that I feel like I've seen before this.
Yeah, so I've been giving updates on
Her followers.
I have been giving updates on her followers that are currently not public on YouTube or the podcast. Actually, I'm guessing by the time this podcast comes out, I will have amended that. But they're not available right now because there is some unsubstantiated information that came into the conversation while I was doing one episode. And in the other episode, I said, quote, I don't know how so much could be wrong in one body. And somebody emailed me and they were very kind. They said, I have more, my laundry list of disorders is longer than that. And so many days I just cry, or like they were very vulnerable. They said they constantly feel like their body is betraying them, and that it made them feel very small to hear me say that. And I felt really bad about that. And of course I didn't, I really didn't mean any harm by that. And I definitely, want to take the time now to publicly say, in case anybody did hear me say that I am sorry. And I'm obviously not a medical professional whatsoever. So that was incorrect of me to say. And so I'm editing that out because, I try to be real and like I am being right now, but I also, if I know something's hurtful, try to go back and edit that content out, because there's no need for me to hurt further people who might listen to it or see it.
Sure. And at the podcast, everyone should know we're big fans of mental health and taking care of mental health, and also keeping a big safe space open for everyone who joins us. And so that's always nice to know how we can make ourselves better.
Yeah. So if you're ever like, whoa, you guys just sounded like dicks, let us know. Email us, tsfthepodcast@gmail.com. You can be nicer. Like, you don't have to call us dicks, but it's we're so happy to try to make corrections when we misspeak or get something wrong, and it's much nicer to get an email that allows us to make that correction rather than like a review or comment that's like, you guys are stupid and I hate you and you're ruining the world, because people say some wild stuff.
And we do take it seriously. As soon as I got the comment, I went in and found it and we marked it, and we know where it is, and we will make sure that, we do care about what we see come in.
Absolutely. And we're going to get those updates back up, but there's just been a lot of content, obviously, to cover. And if you listen to the podcast and subscribe, then you know that I've released 5 episodes in the last 48 hours. So
it's crazy.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
And I was live last night, and here I am again, and I'll be back this afternoon. The devil works hard, but I work harder. No, you know who works the hardest?
The devil? No.
Speaking of O.J. Simpson, the Kardashian mom, Kris Jenner.
She works the hardest?
Yeah, she works the hardest. Okay? But anyways, that's besides the point, but she does. She's out there pimping her kids like crazy. It's a full-time job. So as of what was I don't remember what it was yesterday, but today, pardon me, on Instagram.
I can't read it. It's fuzzy.
Okay, hold on. I'm waiting for the camera to like do its thing. Come on, stop being a dick. Okay, fine. All right. So on Instagram today, she has 7.1 million followers.
What?
On TikTok, she has 7.5. So I know how to do math sometimes, and that's 14.6 million followers. And I tell you what, when I went live and did an update the other day that, like I said, will be back up soon, you guys, that was
12.9.
on, yes, that was on the 4th, 2 days ago. She had 12.9. Now she has 14.6.
Whoa. I feel like anytime I hold this mug up in the camera, I'm being super aggressive, by the way. I'm like, I have to drink quickly. Or else, like, every once in a while, I'm just like,
Go fuck yourself.
basically.
Okay, back to the documentary. So we hear a lot from Christy Blanchard, who, bless her heart in the most positive way, seems like a wonderful person. She's
Ugh.
Gypsy's stepmom. Gypsy says that Christy's the mom that she's always wanted. And Christy says that Gypsy's been in prison for her whole life. Gypsy says that doctors and surgeries and hospitals were all that she knew. She, you know, as I'm sure you guys know, if you have know about the case, I'm not going to go deeply into it, but vision and hearing impairment and muscular dystrophy and seizure disorders and leukemia, and baby, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
Dee Dee claimed that the muscular disorder required her to use a wheelchair, and I'm a little bit confused because it seems that she was introduced later. We hear that she was introduced to the wheelchair at like 5. Apparently, though, she really started using it regularly when she was 8 and was in a wheelchair without needing to be in one for 14 years.
Oh.
Can you imagine not being allowed to walk when you know that you can fucking walk, and wherever this person wants you to be looking, where they just wherever they want you to be going, it's that and the feeding tube are the ultimate control as the feeding tube, which we'll get into later, which is really actually it's hard to see on TV. It's fucked, man. So we see Rob and Christy Blanchard in Cutoff, Louisiana, and they're showing pictures of a sick Gypsy as a child. Rod says that he has a new start with Gypsy and wants her to know that she can talk to him. So it seems like she does have a lot of really good, loving support from her dad and stepmom.
Yeah.
Mike Stanfield, who was the lead counsel on Gypsy's case, said that people saying that Gypsy's in prison for what she did is a very narrow view of the situation, because she obviously didn't choose to be abused. She went from one prison to another. And Beatrice Yorker, an expert on factitious disorder imposed on another, FDIA, which I will call it from here on out, although it is still being called Munchausen syndrome by proxy. That's not actually the correct medical terminology anymore. So I'm going to go with the FDIA.
Yeah, just in the documentary, they hadn't, I don't think, shifted from that terminology. So it's pretty much all through the documentary. Like even the doctors say it into the second episode for sure, because they talk about it a lot.
Munchausen. Yeah, they never, it's not called FDIA or factitious disorder imposed on another in the doc. But like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and refer to that since now we've created the definition, so we all know what's up going forward. like I said, yeah, Beatrice Yorker, who is an expert in FDIA, said that Gypsy is the only documented case of someone having of Gypsy's the only documented case of someone having escaped their abuser via murder, which she said shows just how desperate Gypsy was. Like Gypsy said, she felt like it was her or her mom. Kill or be killed.
Right.
It's it's
Crazy.
a real Sophie's choice. You're fucked if you do and fucked if you don't, you know? Like we see news clips throughout the documentary about how Gypsy and her mom were liars and manipulators who took advantage of their situation. And it's like Gypsy was being forced to lie and manipulate and she's very fucking self-aware, which we'll hear about. Gypsy states that she's going to feel pressure to give people what they want to hear when she gets out. She said, quote, "My mother taught me to lie and manipulate, but that doesn't make me who I am, and I can learn to tell the truth," which I think is very insightful. She's admitting that she has a propensity to lie and manipulate.
Yeah.
Because that's what she was taught to fucking do for the first 23, 24? I think 24 goddamn years of her life. And then you go into prison, which I haven't been, but seems like it can be pretty fucking dog eat dog. I'm sure you might pick up some like not super awesome skills in there just for survival. This woman has been surviving her entire life. And let's say that's what she's an adult, grown ass woman. Let's make that clear, because I think there's a lot of people speaking on behalf of Gypsy and what she needs. And
right.
Gypsy's very fucking clear in this documentary about what she needs. And like everybody needs to like stop with your opinions, you know, like it's too much with the opinion and rumor mill. She admits that she didn't have she admits that she didn't have any remorse at first, and that it took her years to miss her mom and realize the gravity of everything and that she wasn't coming back.
And as she said that, she starts like crying. She starts like tearing up when she did that. She's like, yeah, it took me a couple of years to miss my mom. And she's like visibly emotional about it. It's not like she's cold hearted and is like, fuck that lady, which I mean, she'd have a right to be.
Right. And you know, she's obviously angry and hurt, which we'll get to.
Right.
But I mean, I think that having an initial lack of remorse isn't something that she should judge herself too much about, I personally feel. So Gypsy's dad, Rod, says that he knocked Dee Dee up after 3 months of dating. He was 17, and he thought that Dee Dee was 21 because she's a fucking liar, but she was actually 23. Yes, Fallon.
Tiny bit of grooming there. I'm just saying, like, we always talk about how it happens in the reverse, but this is a case of an older woman who basically went after a pre-of age boy.
Yeah. I mean, no, she was a predator. Dee Dee Blanchard was a predator through and fucking through.
Yeah. Ugh.
I mean, yeah, you shouldn't. You're dating a teenager as a 23-year-old woman who you're lying to about your age, and that's illegal. Maybe not in fucking 1990 and wherever the fuck they are. I don't know, but like,
and
no.
he says like he thought that that's what he was supposed to do, was get married, but she was, you know, he thought she was 21, and then found out that was not true. So like he admits that he went into it willingly, but he was lied to.
Mm-hmm. And he says that he woke up on his 18th birthday. Still, like, as, you know, a kid, but an official adult. And was like, what the fuck did I do? Where am I? And with who? So he divorces Dee Dee, and Dee Dee blamed Gypsy for Rod leaving her because she said that Gypsy wasn't the son that Rod wanted. Which sounds like some fucking bullshit. I mean, it is. Like, yeah, right. Okay? That's not.
Yeah.
No.
Sounds like some 1950s, like, he wanted a son to work the farm with him. Like, that, obviously,
Yeah.
he doesn't care. The guy works on a boat 28 days at a time. Like, he didn't seem to care. He has a daughter now, another daughter.
Yeah, and he seems like a really nice dude, actually. So I have a lot of compassion for him and all of this, you know. So Rod was gone working a lot, and around 3 to 4 months, and when Gypsy was around 3 to 4 months old, Dee Dee told Rod that she had sleep apnea. So now we meet Claude Petre, Gypsy's grandpa, Dee Dee's dad. And apparently when Dee Dee and Rod split, Gypsy and Dee Dee moved back in with Gypsy's dad, or Dee Dee's dad, Claude.
Mm-hmm.
So Christy, Gypsy's stepmom, started dating Rod when Christy, Gypsy's stepmom, started dating Rod when Gypsy was 6 months old, and said that, you know, first Dee Dee was saying that Gypsy had sleep apnea, and then it was her eyesight. Although Gypsy did have one of her eyes was quite lazy. She had a condition that if they didn't do surgery, it would get progressively worse and she would go blind. So she did actually have a real problem with her right eye, for real. And the doctor that we're going to be hearing from actually says that might have been the beginning of the Munchausen.
Yeah, that was crazy to hear that there was just like this one event that set it off, because I'd never heard that before.
Yeah, or it could have been this motorcycle event that we're talking about, but apparently, usually in cases of factitious disorder imposed on another, there is a real medical catalyst to begin with. Then they get the attention and they're like,
that's fun.
That feels good. Yeah. So apparently producers were able to get a hold of a lot of medical records that had been previously unobtained, and they were able to tell Gypsy's pediatrician from 2005, Dr. Rob Steele, and Gypsy herself things that neither of them knew. Gypsy said that she's learning things that happened to her from other people because her mom kept so much from her.
Wow. She's that I do remember that she was like shocked about her eye surgery. She's like, I didn't know I had surgery on my eyes when I was a baby. Like, she had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, all she knew for a long time about her life was whatever her mom told her, which was usually lies. Dr. Steele said that if he'd seen Gypsy's records earlier, things would have been different. And I think that she's probably going to have grounds to sue for medical malpractice somewhere, because the fucking doctor who put a feeding tube in her, what the fuck is wrong with you? You don't check that this child, this person, this human needs that?
We actually get into that in the second episode a little bit. The role of her doctors and who did or did not let her down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
see,
gonna get there.
I haven't watched the second episode, so I'm excited to hear. So Evan Petre, Gypsy's uncle, said that they'd believe what Dee Dee told them because she was a nurse's assistant and could sound very convincing. So around first, second grade, Dee Dee pulled Gypsy out of school because she said that she was scared that the teachers or people who worked at the school weren't going to give Gypsy her medication properly, her medication that she direly needed. So she pulled Gypsy out of school to homeschool her, although didn't teach her fucking anything. So she never got beyond an actual, well, she did not in her first 24 years of life get beyond a second grade degree. No. Education.
I don't know. They have a little tiny graduation at like every grade now. Like my kid had like a pre-K and a kindergarten one. So there could be a second grade degree somewhere, I'm sure.
So she got her second grade degree. And, you know, when you apply for jobs, they want at least a fourth grade degree. So no, but she did get her GED, her general education. What does that stand for?
General equivalency diploma, I think.
Okay, I think so. Yeah, so she got that in high school. Nope, she got that in prison.
Prison.
Which is the equivalent to a high school diploma.
Yes.
Wow, that was so hard for me to. I was like, the high school diplomat.
Okay. We high school diplomat.
What's happening?
We broke a high school bureaucrat. We broke Ashley's brain.
Where am I? So when Gypsy was about 5, she got into a motorcycle accident with her grandpa, and she got a scrape and, you know, some scratches on her knee. So her mom puts a knee brace on her. It's like, it's a little excessive. And then she says that one day her mom comes in with a wheelchair and is like,
Hop in.
This. Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
So she said that at first she used it for like a week and she had fun. She learned how to pop wheelies. It was novel, you know?
Right.
And then it was like, okay, no, you have to stay for it in a month. So it's like, it seems like the wheelchair got introduced when she was 5, but became a full-time thing when she was 8.
Can you imagine having, like, my kids get so sore when they're in the car and have to sit for a long period of time, and like having to sit when you don't need to sit, or sit when you have like full feeling in that part of your body. Like, I'm sure it was so uncomfortable for her.
Her life was nothing but misery. It is. Ugh. It is so fucking heartbreaking. And I mean, hot take. I just think that maybe some people aren't great people and don't need to like be mingling with society. So, you know, Dee Dee should have either been sitting in prison for the rest of her life or executed for her crimes, which actually I don't believe in, because I think that you should have to like spend the entire rest of your life locked up thinking about what the fuck you did. I actually think capital punishment is kind of like giving people the easy way out. What do you think?
Maybe.
Hot take.
I don't know. I don't want to talk about that on live. It's a very
right,
I ride the fence on that particular issue.
Either way, Dee Dee was a very dangerous person. She fucking very much likely killed her own mother. She poisoned her stepmother, which we'll talk about, and she was slowly killing Gypsy and probably would have murdered her. She was like a serial killer, dude. She's
Yeah, a little
almost.
bit. Like one of those, what do they call those nurses? Angels of mercy, right? That kill their patients
Yeah.
so that they can either get credit for like being with them or trying to save them at the last minute or whatever.
Yeah, those. The thing is, though, remember you were saying that you were reading the Diagnostics and Statistics Manual 5 of
Mm-hmm.
psychotherapy, or what's it called? DSM?
The DSM-5.
Of
Diagnostician and
statistical.
statistics manual. Yeah.
Of.
No,
of-
it's not of. It's just the
Oh. Well,
of
it's
the
about-
American Psychological Association. Yeah.
Right, which I don't trust them. I don't trust them as far as I could throw them. No, listen. Do you know who's been the head of the APA? Like
I
the
know.
sketchiest people. The dude who fucking brainwashed Ted Kaczynski. You know that?
Mhm.
You do know.
Yes, because we talked about this.
So wait, why'd you roll your eyes? The APA sketch as fuck.
I didn't roll. I didn't mean to
Don't
roll
trust
my
the
eyes.
government, you guys.
Okay.
Don't trust them. Just don't, okay? All right, moving on.
I was like, is she stuck?
I am. I don't. Yes, so much happening. Right. So, anyways, you were reading the DSM-5 about fictitious disorder, and you said that they are aware of what they're doing. So it's not a situation where they're not aware that they're hurting somebody or doing something wrong. They very much so do.
Mm-hmm. That's right. It's not like they're going, oh, I really, really, really think I'm helping someone. Like it is specifically done for the attention or the whatever.
Or the free houses, or the free trips to Disneyland, or the child of the award year.
Child, I got you. You're good.
Child of the Year award, which in Dee Dee's mind equates to
The mother of the
Mother
year.
of
award.
the Year. Yeah, exactly. So one time, so Gypsy's uncle recounts a time that she was hanging out over there and she sees some neighbor kids jumping on a trampoline. She's like, "Can I go jump?" And he's like, "Sure, you seem able-bodied to me. Yeah, you can get out of your fucking wheelchair and go jump on a trampoline." And he said that she's like jumping, and as soon as Dee Dee pulls up, she just like goes ragdoll. And the Beatrice Yorker, the specialist who we heard from earlier, said that that's actually very common behavior for children who are victims of FDIA because, like, you know, when they're with the parent, they're playing the part that the parent is forcing them to.
Right.
And then, you know, the parent's out of the room and they're like, "Oh, I can smile and maybe like trying to eat some cake and maybe like say hello to a fellow child." You know, so
When Dee Dee comes in, she's just like,
mm-hmm.
it's such a conditioned response. Like she's
Yes.
conditioned that when she sees her mom, she's limp and helpless and her mom's in charge.
Well, right, because obviously that's a learned response. Dee Dee was furious and she comes and she's like, "What are you doing letting her do that? She's paralyzed," or whatever. And they're like, "Oh, well, obviously she's not."
Right.
But, you know, there's just always something wrong with Gypsy. So it's like, how dare you let her do normal child things?
The cognitive dissonance is amazing to me. Like she's literally jumping on a trampoline and then she says, "How dare you let her jump on a trampoline? She's crippled," and then takes her into the house in her wheelchair. Like what's the
Yeah.
mental gymnastics required to keep up that level of deception, and it is amazing.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just such a bummer that nobody was like, "That seems really fucked." But she was so convincing. Like I said, she knew medical terminology and shit, you know? And
Yep.
it's correct me if I'm wrong, but parents don't love being questioned about their parenting techniques, right? Often.
No, that's not. Yeah, but like if somebody, yeah, people don't in general like to be questioned about like or told like I think you should do this a different way.
And I think Dee Dee in particular would have been a very fucking hard person to say anything like that too. So it's just a very complex situation. Rob and Christy tried to be closer to Gypsy, but Dee Dee told Gypsy that Rob had a new family and wanted nothing to do with them. If this is true, I don't know what child says this. And again, my heart is breaking. Christy said that they would ask, like, oh, what do you want for your birth? Christy said that, I know, you know what's coming, that they would ask her, like, oh, what do you want for her birth? Fuck me. God. It's like a very touching moment and I can't talk. Okay. Oops, I'm not supposed to yell into the microphone.
No,
either.
but this is the uncomfortable laughing we were talking about that we do, like when when we get really emotional, we're like find a way for your brain to just like go off the rails because I can't.
Yeah, it's too much, you guys. It's no, like I can't. My brain is what? So Christy said that when they would ask Gypsy, oh, what do you want for birthday?
Do you want me to try?
Can you please just say this?
Okay. Christy said that she used to ask Gypsy, what does she want for her birthday? And Gypsy would say, nothing but love, right?
Yeah.
Nothing but love. And Dee Dee would be like, no. She wants Disney stuff and princess costumes. But like all Gypsy said was nothing but your love.
Just love? Like,
is that
I can't, dude.
That's what like broke me. Both my husband and I were like, ugh.
Like, I don't think Christy would make that up. So I just like, I want to hug little Gypsy.
I know
so much. I want to hug big Gypsy. I just,
it's okay.
You're crying. Okay.
I'm crying. You're crying.
All right. God. Okay.
We got this.
After Dee Dee's mom died, Dee Dee started bouncing all over the place. There was a warrant out for her arrest. She was writing bad checks. She had maxed out 2 of her dead mother's credit cards, who she likely killed via starvation.
Woo.
I think maybe people don't. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe people are so obsessed with this case because it's one of the craziest fucking things I've ever heard.
Yeah, the whole thing.
But I feel like people don't know. This isn't all known. It's like the more you. But
if this were a movie plot, somebody would kick it back to the writer of the movie and go, it's too complicated. It's too much. You can't put that much detail in. That would never happen in real life.
Yeah, nobody like.
But I mean, you can't make this shit up, like, for real.
I'm going horse, Fallon.
Oh,
I'm going horse.
She's doing it.
Horse. She's gone horsey. Isn't that a song? She's gone country or something. Okay. And I don't know. See, I'm breaking things because something else. Now I'm going to say, well, what I said earlier. So, like I said, Gypsy says that her best memory in life is the day she got out of prison because it was the most free she had ever felt sitting at the picnic tables outside. And I wrote, I'm not crying. You are, because I was crying.
Were you?
Yes.
Aw.
I was like, fuck off, dude. Like,
they show her like spinning around with her arms out in the prison yard, and it's like the same shot that the guy in Shawshank Redemption does when he gets out of prison, only she's doing it getting into prison, right?
Well,
Like,
it's like a reenactment shot, right? It's not her
oh,
actually.
I think that one is her, because her with her longer hair. Like, I think that one is her, that they
Oh,
taped her. But still, it's funny because it's like her like feeling
Shawshank
free
Redemption, but the
is,
opposite. Yeah.
yeah, it's like the opposite.
She she said she was like, "Yeah, I know I'm behind bars and in a like structured system and prison, but I still feel freer here." And it was the first time she got to socialize with people like around her own age group because she didn't have to pretend like she was fucking 12 or
Yeah.
whatever age she was supposing to have been at whatever time, because
Yep.
Dee Dee was successful at keeping that real confusing. Gypsy says that she doesn't expect to have it easy when she gets out. She has grown and evolved by learning from her experiences. When she was 8, her mom told Christy and Rod that she had been diagnosed with leukemia, and Gypsy said she didn't even know what cancer was, but it just was another thing in her long string of medications and surgeries. And that's when Dee Dee started shaving her head. And Dee Dee, and then we hear a conversation between the producers and Gypsy. It's over a phone call, and they read Gypsy a letter that her mom had written to a medical doctor or something, because she had to go to several people before she could get somebody to put a fucking unnecessary feeding tube into her
Yeah.
daughter's stomach.
Yep.
And they said, your mom said that you needed a feeding tube because you had a fear of eating and you weren't getting enough calories. And Gypsy's like, what? I love to eat. Like,
Right.
that is fucking kooks bananas. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is true, although I guess I don't like, how do feeding tubes work? Because in The Act, which Gypsy wasn't a fan of, but I did watch it before I knew that, she like blends up pizza in a blender and puts it into the tube. Is that?
I don't know. I'm not a nurse.
that how
So
that-
if
okay.
there's a medical professional in the comments, please tell us. But from what I understand, you have to put some sort of like liquidy substance into it. But you have like literally a tube that goes into the thing. But I don't know if you could blend up a pizza and put it in there, but still.
Just it's so fucking horrifically abusive. And apparently feeding tubes are often found in FDIA. Feeding tubes are often found in FDIA cases because it gives the parent ultimate control to medicate, feed, starve, or poison their child, or all of the above. Gypsy says that it breaks her heart to think how much she trusted her mom, and it makes her angry to know that Dee Dee could look at her own child and do what she did to her. And she's crying as she says this, and it's just, it's really hardcore bummer. At one point, Dee Dee and Gypsy were in New Orleans and they got into a car accident, and apparently Dee Dee's foot was almost cut off. So while she was recuperating, Gypsy went to live with her grandpa. And weirdly, she could eat through her mouth and loved to do so, and just ate whatever they cooked. And
Yeah, he's like cookies, ice cream,
Again,
regular food.
they know she can walk. They know she can eat. Why isn't social services being called like at this? Also, it's not common to put pizza into a feeding tube.
Yes, thank you, Maya.
Don't trust what you see on TV, you guys. You know, in biographical docudramas or whatever. So Gypsy says that she was really close with her grandpa, and you guys, trigger warning if you thought this couldn't get worse. It's about to. Trigger warning for CSA for the next few minutes. So, when Gypsy was living with her grandpa and her step so when Gypsy was living with her grandpa Claude and her step grandma Laura, Claude started molesting her. Gypsy said that he would take her out of her wheelchair and bring her into a closet or the woodworking shed behind the house and sexually abuse her. She said she didn't tell anyone because he said, well, you don't want to get Pop in trouble now, do you? Pretty classic fucking perpetrator technique. And she didn't want to get her grandpa in trouble, and she didn't want to she didn't want to get her grandpa in trouble, and she didn't want to cause trouble for her mom, who was really injured at the time. And that's what happens in these sorts of situations, is that the child feels responsible for the parents' feelings and well-being. So the production team confronts Claude because I'm like, how the fuck is he in this documentary? Like, what?
Right. That was like,
yeah, I was like, what is going on? So they confront Claude and they said, this is what Gypsy said. And he completely denies it. He says, I don't know why she'd say that, baby. He calls the fucking producer baby.
did he say baby?
Yes.
I chalked those sorts of things throughout up to
Like
up
Louisiana Bayou
like
kind of slang.
Like any, I don't know if it's like Bayou slang, but Louisiana dialect, because they all have very like unique thick accents. So
Yeah,
I
no,
thought
but he
it
said
could just
baby.
be, yeah, I mean, but that could be like a term they use for everybody, you know.
Well,
I'm not gonna
get your tits together in this situation and don't call a professional documentary producer baby while you're getting accused of molesting your grandchild, you fuck.
yeah. I thought you were telling me to get my tits together, and I was like, everything
No.
is as together as it needs
They
to
look
be.
great. So you're good. This guy does have tits, though. Fuck him. Yeah, so I said, victim blame much? Are you fucking kidding? This whole family is evil. Because, yeah, it sounds like the dad is a molesty piece of shit. Dee Dee is a murdering piece of shit, and the cousins and whoever on that side of the family are like, I don't think that doesn't sound like.
They're like, I don't think that happened. I think that Dee Dee probably put that into her head over time, and then she ended up saying it later.
Yeah, and Gypsy's like, no, that definitely fucking happened to me. I didn't make that up. That didn't get planted into my head. So I'm going to go ahead and say, the Petre. Fuck the Petre family. Fuck you guys. That's just a hot personal take. But fuck you. And that's why my address isn't on the internet, because I have a lot of feelings. And So, okay, we're about to wrap this part up.
Mm-hmm.
Gypsy says that she's only just realizing how much trauma she's been through. She has taken a trauma therapy class, but hasn't gotten enough therapy as much as she needs. She knows that therapy is essential to better her. She knows that therapy is essential for her betterment and that it'll take years to undo the psychological trauma. Dude, I haven't met a lot of people who have gone through a sliver of this kind of trauma and, being kept in a situation where they were emotionally and mentally stunted in their growth for years. To be able to speak like this, and then people on the internet are like, "Hi, my name's John, and you're a murderer." Burr, burr, burr. Go fuck yourself, John. And Karen.
Right.
And Chad. Todd. Susan.
Chad.
You guys, you know what? Sorry. There's probably Chads and Todds and Karens and Susans listening who are fucking awesome. I feel like
I was going to say, I have an aunt named Karen, and she is the nicest person ever. So it's really unfortunate that that's some people, epithet of a name.
It turned out really poorly. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Sorry, you guys, that happened to you. You few bad apples, huh?
Yeah. What can you do?
And yeah, it basically kind of leaves off saying that Dee Dee hated her stepmom, Laura, and had been poisoning her with Roundup and died. And Laura died a slow, painful death, partly probably due to the Roundup poisoning. And
the creepiest thing was like Gypsy going, "Oh, Grandpa, that's the vitamins that Mama puts in, Grandma's food." And he's like, "What?"
Mm-hmm.
That's like straight out of The Sixth Sense. Like that scene in The Sixth Sense.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, that is like that's a Munchausen FDIA.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect case. And yeah, that was a young Misha Barton.
I know.
So at that point, much to Gypsy's relief, they leave So at that point, much to Gypsy's relief, they leave Claude's house. She's like, "Cool, I'm going to not be sexually abused anymore." But being disconnected from all of her family in Louisiana, the Petrays and the Blanchards, gave Dee Dee free reign to do whatever the fuck she wanted. And that's the end of episode 1. And scene.
Ooh. That's a good one. It's a crazy start.
Woof. Should we let's take a quick second to see if So, I need to take a 30-second break. And Fallon, I feel like you could always do that too.
Always. I'm always at the end.
Am I right?
Yeah.
So, you guys, chat amongst yourselves, and we will be right back. Beep boop. Okay. Thank you guys for waiting on that short commercial break. Maya says, I'm so glad you're talking about this documentary because I can't watch it here. No, just for a quick potty break. You know, we're ladies in our 30s and 40s, and sometimes you gotta go. You know, lots of coffee going down around here. So, somebody else said something about not being able to access the documentary, which is, yeah, part of the reason we really wanted to. Yeah, Kelly said, thanks for watching this so I don't have to seek out, pay for, and spend hours watching. Yes, Kelly, we are doing the hard work for you. So if you guys are just joining or you joined late, we are covering the docuseries, The Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, pretty much doing a play-by-play recap. It's on Lifetime, which is not a super easy channel to access. So you're welcome, you guys. Fallon and I both got cable for you for this. So we just broke down episode 1, Born a Prisoner. It was, a lot of it was kind of recap about what we already know about a part of it was recap about what we already know about Gypsy's story, but we did hear from her lead counsel, Mike Stanfield. We heard from Christy and Rod Blanchard, her dad and stepmom. We heard from her grandfather, Claude Pitre, who SA'd her as a child. And yeah, so if you haven't heard that part, make sure you guys go back and listen or watch.
Yeah, Maya, we're about to watch the second episode. Maya left a comment that said, did they go to watch the second episode? LOL.
So actually though, I'm thinking that we should probably do this as just like episode, like instead of 3 long episodes, just probably 6 short episodes. Don't you think?
I mean, I think we can keep talking here, but we could start at the beginning again, just saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So timestamp
107:55. Let's just say 108.
Yeah.
Like 107:55, 56, 57.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of The Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. We're talking about episode 2. Editor, hi. I did a really thorough kind of little quick recap right before this, as you actually didn't hear. So go back a couple minutes actually and throw that recap in right hither. So yeah, a lot of important stuff that we found out in the first episode. Make sure and go back and listen to that if you have not yet. And oh, hey, what's up? It's That's So Fucked Up, a podcast about Colt's murder and other generally fucked up stuff. Your current source for the hottest fucking true crime and fucked up news. My God, we're
on it.
It's on and poppin'. Saviors of Society of the Snow about Uruguayan flight flight 75.
And you already were on that like years before it's a big deal.
Well, they made a movie about it called Alive in 1993. It's about a rugby team that crashed in the Andes, and it's it's a crazy story. And there's a movie on Netflix right now called Society of the Snow. And so just did a re-release on that episode. And then there's a documentary out called Daughters of the Cult about Ervil and Barron, aka the Mormon Manson. They call him that because he was a fundamentalist Mormon polygamist cult leader, and he had a bunch of people killed, but like Charles Manson, he didn't do any of the murders himself. So actually, again, hot on the case, years ago, I and my co-host Cam interviewed Anna LeBaron, who was one of Ervil's children.
Yep.
And then Cam had worked on a movie in Utah with an Allred, and this other fundamentalist polygamous Mormon cult leader named Rulin Allred was murdered by Ervil, or by one of Ervil's people, because he was a rival cult leader. So we got Ervil's daughter and Rulin Allred's great grandson to talk.
Whoa.
Because Cam reached out and was like, are you by any chance an Allred related to this? And he was like,
wow.
Yeah, actually me. Yeah, the AUB, the United Brethren, something. Remind me, Sophia? The something United Brethren. Maya, you're lost. Sorry. Am I being confusing? I did kind of go.
Sorry, we're just talking about episodes that we re-released this week because they're currently hot documentaries, right, on one of the new streaming services. And Ash covered them like years ago before they were.
Yeah, so right now there's a
documentaries.
documentary on Hulu called Daughters of the Cult about Ervil LeBaron. And I covered Ervil LeBaron years ago and talked to one of his daughters and talked to the great grandson of one of his victims. So wild. Yeah, wild stuff. So lots going on the feed because there's lots going on out there in the world right now. So as you know, though, we are here covering Gypsy. We're covering Natalia Grace as well. We're up on it, you guys. So be here with us.
Yeah.
Be up on it too. Jump up on it. No. Get down on it.
And we're
Get down on it.
I know we hadn't sung in the last
Get
episode.
down
I feel
on
like
it,
we
that
missed
feeling.
something.
Get down on it. Okay. So let's go. I'm ready. I'm excited. Tell me about episode 2. I don't even know what the fuck happened.
Right. Today we're doing episode 2, and tonight I'll be watching 3 and 4 to bring you more Gypsy realness.
And I'm going to watch 5 and 6 and bring you the rest.
She's going to bring it in, wrap it up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk episode 2. So I didn't write down every single change in speaker because sometimes someone would just flash up and say something that wasn't as big of a deal. Like Gypsy was horribly abused. Like 50 people say that. So I didn't note every person.
Yeah.
But we hear from a lot of the same people that we heard in the last documentary. So this one starts, or the last episode, we hear from a lot of the same people we heard from in the last episode. This one, they report, is starting 23 hours before her parole hearing. And Gypsy starts out by saying everything is leading up to that moment. Everything that she's done is leading up to this moment. She's been called a victim and a murderer, but there is much more under the surface when it comes to her. She said she was naive and scared before prison, and now she feels more responsible for herself. And she wants, above all, to show that she is not broken. I know.
So don't
So
call her broken, you guys.
no.
I mean, I can imagine how triggering that would be because she was treated like her body and mind were broken her entire life. Her mom's like, "You're slow." She's like, "I feel like I can think." And she's like, "You can't. Here are some drugs into your feeding tube."
Yeah. And she goes actually into some of that stuff that she was told by her mom in this episode. So they go back to where your episode picked. They go back to where episode 1 left off. Dee Dee and Gypsy leave Dee Dee's dad's house and they move 2 hours away. Gypsy's dad works 28 days on and then has 28 days off in his work schedule. So he was gone a lot when Gypsy was younger. He said he did care about her, but they seemed to be fine. Gypsy suspects, though, that her mom didn't want her to have a relationship with her dad. She accused her dad of abuse. Like she said one time, Dee Dee said that he had picked her up by the neck as a baby and like tossed her across the room. And Gypsy's like, that never happened. And of course, dad had no idea her whole childhood, the things that Gypsy was being told. So he doesn't know
Right.
how she favors him or not.
Right.
They say that Dee Dee probably learned manipulation as a kid. Her brother says that Dee Dee's brother says that their mom had favored her and kept her from doing a lot of stuff herself because she had a heart murmur. So Dee Dee's brother thinks maybe that's where Dee Dee got some of that behavior from, because her mom did that same protective thing over what was, not a huge medical issue for Dee Dee.
So
Like
they
she wouldn't
think
let her go
that
to dances and stuff.
okay, so they think that Dee Dee's mom may have displayed some characteristics of factitious disorder imposed on another, aka FDIA.
Right.
As
They
well.
don't come out and say it like that. They just say, our mom limited her from doing things because of a medical condition that Dee
Okay.
Dee had. I think Dee Dee actually had that, but they gave the impression that it was sort of blown out of proportion a little bit.
Okay.
But they never come out and say Dee Dee's mom had FDIA. So Gypsy says she herself was not taught a lot of things she should have been from a certain age. For example, almost her whole life, she took baths and she slept in bed with her mom. When she got her first period, she was freaking out because she had never been told about what it was. She was 13 years old and her mom told her to use diapers when she had her period. So she's a 13-year-old girl wearing a diaper because her mom didn't instruct her in feminine hygiene items. Spoiler alert, y'all, we're going to use the word tampon just in case that freaks anyone out. She said she actually learned how to use tampons in prison and it changed her life because
She's
she
like,
had
whoa, I don't have to sit in my menstrual blood all day. That's awesome.
in a diaper. How how awful.
Degrading.
How degrading. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. That's why I love you, because you're always there with the word that will not come out of my mouth, no matter how
I
much
love words.
force
I
that.
really do. Because the more I try to pretend like I know them, I can't talk. I love lamp
I was about to say I love lamp.
and I love words.
Dee Dee, I'm pressing on. Dee Dee likely tried to keep, she says, Gypsy as young as possible, as long as possible, or at least seeming as young as possible, which we all clearly know. So she was in her early teens around the time Hurricane Katrina made landfall. Gypsy and her mom were living in Slidell, Louisiana, which is essentially right at the center of it. Both her dad and Christy is Gypsy's stepmom, if you didn't hear our previous episode. Both her dad and Christy didn't know where the two were, and both were really worried if they were even alive because they couldn't get a hold of them, and all they were seeing was like news, like pictures with just the devastation on them. Gypsy and her mom stayed at a shelter for a month. And when Gypsy said when they went back to their apartment, there was absolutely nothing left. But Dee Dee had talked to a woman at the shelter that could life flight them and found that someone could life flight them to Missouri to stay there instead. So the doctor who was her pediatrician when she was younger, sorry, what's his name? Dr.
Steele.
Sorry, Dr. Steele. I didn't write his name down for some reason. I just wrote doctor.
Doctor.
There were many. So they cut to the doctor, Dr. Steele, who said that whenever he saw them, Dee Dee was loving and Dee was loving. She was always hugging Gypsy, physically affectionate, kissing her. But Gypsy says, well, that was basically my signal to shut up. Like, if she starts hugging me and holding my hand and kissing me, it means I'm supposed to stop talking.
Yeah, those are like little covert forms of control. It's like, oh, it just looks like a tight hug or a lovingly tight hand holding, but that's like,
right, like
that's a I own you gesture.
Right. When people judge her and in comments that they say that they only see pictures of Dee Dee like hugging her and kissing her, it's like, yeah, she was controlling the shit out of her. So the doctor said that what Gypsy would say to him made her sound like a kindergartner. Made her sound like a kindergartner. She was always dressed in princess dresses. The way she talked was very sort of young for her age. Which, and I mean,
she still does. But I think when you talk like that for the first couple decades of your life,
that's your voice at some point.
Yeah.
But I do think that as she starts like really talking, she loses, like when she gets confident, she loses a little bit of that super high pitched, like sort of like baby voice she had when she was like much younger. I think she sounds a little less, like a little more confident now. The Dee Dee would repeatedly tell Gypsy, she says, that she had a short life expectancy. When she was younger, she would tell her she was only going to live till she was 5, then till 15, then 20. So she would tell other people that, including the doctors and others around her. And she would tell Gypsy, basically like, hold up, girl, like you're going to die soon. So like Gypsy's also living under this cloud her whole life, thinking that her life expectancy is nothing. Right. Which is unbelievable. She told the doctors that there were no medical records due to Katrina, and she became the sole information source. And Dr. Steele says it's a red flag because there was no diagnosis or treatment details. And even for when they asked her, like, okay, you say she has cancer, like what kind of cancer? How was she treated? And she couldn't give that answer.
You know, just cancer. What more do you need to know?
Not like there's not a million types and a ton of different treatments, right?
Right.
Gypsy said when they moved, she didn't think it would be tough to adjust to life in Missouri because she didn't feel like she had close family ties anyway. Her family had been cut off from her for so long that there was no reason for her to care about moving. They interviewed someone named Marcia Smith who met Gypsy when she was brought into the hospital when they got to Missouri. She said Gypsy was very friendly. Gypsy developed a close relationship with her and called her Nona. And Marcia was a sort of safe place for Gypsy. She said she was super sweet. The producers ask if Marcia missed Gypsy, and she's like, I miss her every day. And it like starts crying. So sweet. And she has like a box full of stuff that Gypsy made her, letters she wrote her, pictures she colored her, just like she lays it all out in her bed. And Marcia reports that she was told that Gypsy's dad was out of the picture because he was a quote unquote bad man.
Yeah. You guys, listen, I've said it 1,000 times and I'll say it 1,000 more times. Whoever smelt it, dealt it. Except for me and Fallon when we're accusing other people of being shitbags. In these kind of things where it's like, they're bad. And it's all the, hey, when you've got one finger pointing at somebody else, 4 pointing back at you. And if it's 2, 8 pointing back at you.
This is not an expression I've ever
Are you
had.
serious? No, it's like when you're pointing the finger at somebody, you have 3 fingers pointing back at you, actually, because your thumb is not a finger.
Oh, see, this is one of those
get
things.
it?
I'm extremely literal, and you have to really explain to me with pictures. I get you now.
Is that why in text sometimes I'm like, what are you not understanding? And you're like,
Yes.
you said to center it. And I'm like, that's the middle, bitch. And you're like, but you didn't say middle. You said center. I'm like,
Yes.
what?
I am what I am. I'm sorry.
I am what I am.
So Gypsy's dad says he finally made contact with them a few months after they left. Dee Dee told him that they would stay in Missouri, and he said he missed Gypsy, but Dee Dee was clearly doing a good job taking care of Gypsy from what he knew, which is the only time I hear him talk where I'm like, really? Because, like,
well, I mean, if they believe that this stuff is going on, right? And Gypsy, I mean,
yeah.
If they believe that this stuff is going on and they're far away, so
Right.
they're only getting the story from Dee Dee. They're
That's
rarely seeing Gypsy. And what they do know about Dee Dee is she's an intensely dedicated mother to her very sick daughter, who's getting her Make-A-Wish trips to Disneyland and making her few short years on this earth because she's going to die as a teenager.
That's true. Yeah.
It's all...
I guess dad didn't know even as much as, like, I keep forgetting, like, dad didn't get to see the things that, like, Dee Dee's family did, which is like he never saw Gypsy jumping on a trampoline or, you know, running around or eating food. He like only had Dee Dee's word to go from
Right.
it. That's right. He didn't see any of that.
No. That's like when they went to, I guess, was it Missouri where they were far?
Missouri.
They were like pretty far from the rest of the family. That's when shit just
Yeah.
got super cuckoo because there was nobody there to keep an eye on anything and be like, wait, what?
Well, and I guess the stepmom, I love her so much, Christy. She is like just such a good mom. I don't even want to say stepmom. She's just like a good mom, period. Like she routinely calls Gypsy her child and like talks about her child being her. Like she doesn't make a distinction, like that it's not her biological daughter. And she said that the way that they found them was you could put in a thing with the news agency to record like a message for your person you were missing. And she did that. It was just like, if you're there, like reach out to us. And somehow they were finally able to get a hold of her because they thought they might be dead. Like they had no idea where they were.
After Katrina?
Yeah. After Katrina. Yeah, because Gypsy, like Dee Dee didn't like call him and say, hey, we're getting life flighted to Missouri. She just like picked up and left.
And life flighted is
like a helicopter or a plane that like flies you out of a hospital to another. So they basically, I guess, utilized it because of all Gypsy's supposed, you know, issues and disabilities. They put her on a plane and took her in a special medical transport all the way to Missouri. First to a hospital, and then I think they lived in a hospital like associated housing type thing.
And then they had that house built for them by Habitat
that's
of
coming
Humanity.
up.
Okay.
Yep,
yeah.
That's coming up.
Yeah, I'm going full horse now. I'm bringing dogs in. I'm like, I
know, man.
Animalistic about this.
I got so like anxious about this topic. I keep like obsessively scrolling on my screen and getting lost because it's like making me twitchy.
Where am I? Yeah.
So we go back to Dr. Seal, who says he had to go off of Dee Dee's information because there were no medical records, but they had tested her and he could find no evidence of cancer. And so he said, okay, well, she could be in remission, etc. But, you know, mom also says that she has muscular issues like muscular dystrophy. And he said, okay, well, when I tested her physically, what I could do, there were no obvious symptoms of things that Dee Dee had said. So he referred her over to a doctor named Dr. Flasterstein, who is featured in like the older documentaries and in The Act.
We like Flasterstein.
Yeah, kind of. We do. We do.
He's like one of the only people, if not the only person, who said anything.
He did say something. I don't mean we don't like him. So he is like one of the only people that like raised the red flag. Gypsy does question him in this documentary. That's why I said that. And says like, you know, maybe your report that you could have made for me, well, like maybe it wouldn't have been accepted, but why wouldn't you at least try if it was that bad? Like that's the only thing she sort of says about him is like,
yeah, that he kind of just like, well, you know, I did my part and
he could have done. She seems to feel like he could have done more.
Yeah,
to help her. So
I agree, actually. So
he said that Dee Dee, when he first met with them, he said Dee Dee couldn't give details or wasn't willing to give any. So he did full clean tests. He did an MRI of her brain and spine, and all came back not surprisingly, normal. Gypsy didn't have cerebral. God damn.
No, I know you forget how to talk like halfway into the story for some reason. It happened to me too.
Gypsy didn't have cerebral palsy or muscular dystrophy, though he said, you know, she should be able to walk. There's no reason she can't. So he reports that he asked Gypsy to walk and that she was able to stand up. And at this point, they cut back to Gypsy and she's like, whoa. I'm not saying this doctor's a liar, but I know damn well, and these are the words she uses. She says, if I had stood up in any doctor's office, I would have gotten my ass chewed. And that did not happen. So she's saying that she never stood up and showed that she could walk in his presence. But then they come back to the doctor who says she did stand up, and then Dee Dee got super upset, put her in her wheelchair, and stormed out. Based on what happened during that appointment and the tests being clean, he was suspicious of it being FDIA. So then he goes, why didn't I report it? I guess you're going to ask me, or something like that. And he says, you can't call child services or child welfare on a suspicion. You have to have facts to prove it. But then that's where Gypsy says, okay, but why wouldn't you at least try? Like, if you knew it was bad, it might not have been perfect, but you should have at least tried.
Isn't the fact, hey, I'm a medical doctor and I tested this child and there's nothing wrong with her, and
yeah,
this mom is a fucking liar and needs to be investigated? I don't know. I would think the fact is that, hi, I'm a medical doctor and this child doesn't have anything wrong with them.
So then they cut back to the doctor who says, okay, well, maybe I should have at least reported it. And if I got a negative response and they wouldn't investigate, then oh well. But he said, I'm glad she can walk and I wish her the best. Like, sorry about your life of absolute trauma, but glad those legs are working.
I thought you could. That's sick. Good for you.
Yeah, when we were watching this, we were
Stay
talking.
Cool, Gypsy. What the fuck, man?
When we were watching this, my husband and I were like, my husband said, wouldn't it be an interesting study to go through and start tallying up the people that failed her, like throughout the whole thing, because it would probably be not a small number.
Yeah. Also, I forgot to mention this in the previous episode. Gypsy said that she didn't tell her mom about the abuse by her grandpa because her mom was like too injured to be able to do anything about it or something. And then she said that one time she started to tell her mom, but then Dee Dee, in classic fucking Dee Dee fashion, started crying, was like, oh my God, it's all my fault. And made it about her. So Gypsy was like, never mind. Just
Dee Dee
sit
made it
in.
about her. What?
I know. Shocker. What? Get out of here. That's not.
Ooh. And we got 22 people in the room with us right now. Just FYI.
No, I know. You
Hey,
guys.
everyone.
We had 7 last night. I mean, and it was I mean, me and Trevin were talking about something cool. I mean, not cool. It was the troubled teen industry, and it's terrible. But 22, pop in. Ayo.
So
Apollistic United Brethren. That's the AUB.
There it is.
Thanks, one with cats.
If you're just here, that was a little throwback from the beginning of the episode, not the current episode. So, or not the current story.
Oh, right. Wait, was that the previous episode?
No, you were talking about it before we got rocking on Gypsy. You were talking about your live you released.
Right. Yeah, but so just to bring it full circle from earlier, it was called the Apostolic. The AUB is the Apostolic United Brethren, and that's the group that Rulin Allred was the leader of, and Rulin Allred was Ervil LeBaron, aka the Mormon Manson's victim, because they were rival cult leaders. And I had the amazing pleasure of talking to Rulin Allred's great grandson and one of Ervil's 51 children. How crazy is that? It was like, hey, my dad had your great grandpa murdered. What's up?
What's
it
that about?
It was beautiful. It was amazing.
Wild.
Oh, the AUB. I might have said AUP, but AUB. So yeah, please continue.
Right. So Dee Dee starts going to numerous doctors. This is from Dr. Steele. He said people with FDIA often doctor hop. So Dee Dee starts going to numerous doctors for Gypsy's drooling, which is a common problem in those with cerebral why can't I say this? Cerebral palsy. Gypsy says, well, yeah, because my mom put Oragel on my mouth, which numbed it and made me drool. But because of this, Dee Dee was able to convince doctors to have Gypsy's salivary glands removed, which also Dr. Steele says does a number on a person's teeth. And Gypsy says she has had all but 16 teeth removed from her mouth. She has dentures, but they don't fit properly, and she can't replace them at this point because she's in prison. So hopefully now she is able to get all this stuff taken care of to make her more comfortable.
Well, she has a newer iPhone than me, so I mean, honestly, somebody what fucking dental company doesn't want to come and give Gypsy some new teeth? And
right.
If I had the power to give people teeth, I'd give her some teeth for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So
yeah, no, and the medications that Dee Dee also was giving her were really, really bad on her teeth. So when you see pictures and all her teeth look all fucked up and or are missing,
yeah, they don't actually mention they don't actually mention it in the documentary. They just attribute it to the lack of the salivary glands, but I think there were a couple contributing factors. They just don't go into it at this point. Because I did read it in a news article that it was, like you said, that it was some of her pills as well. So then we get into, speaking of pills, what a great segue. Did you read my notes? So after her surgery, which happened at 16 years old, did you go on mute?
Yes, I did. I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't mean to.
I was like, oh my God, it's so silent all of a sudden. After Gypsy had surgery, she was 16 years old. She started taking pain medication that was prescribed for her. And it started out with 1 or 2 pills. Eventually, she ran out of medicine, but Dee Dee had some leftover Vicodin from some other something, maybe her own thing, and she started taking like 3 or 4 pills at a time. She said the pills were a great escape for the situation. She didn't know what addiction was, but she did know that she just kept thinking about those pills and wanting to take them, and how like good it felt to just like forget about everything.
As an addict, well, very much in recovery. Thank you, guys.
Yay!
It's been
almost 7 years, right?
Well, I started my recovery journey 9 years ago. And
okay.
I've had a few slip ups in that time, but because I don't do a 12-step program, those lapses did not erase any of my prior sobriety. And I smoke the marijuana because I enjoy doing so. So, but also, like, yeah, it's drugs and alcohol. We all know it's a great way to feel less. Which,
yeah.
So,
They-
I mean, it makes sense to me that she would become addicted to something that made her able to escape.
It makes sense to me, but yeah, I hear a noise too. Again. Hold on.
Fuck me. Is that what you were hearing before? Oh, it's gone.
It's gone. Okay. Okay, so we go over to it. So this is what I was gonna say. I got so distracted by that noise. I'm like, squirrel. So it's something that I had never really thought about with regard to her. I assumed her mom was controlling all her medications, and it totally makes sense that she might at some point turn to this if it was available to her. But it was interesting to hear it because I never thought of it as something that happened to her. Any kind of addiction. So she starts talking to Dr. Fabian. It was a psychologist who she was originally supposed to talk to her, I guess, before she went to trial, but she ended up pleading guilty. So there was no need to talk to her before her trial, but he agreed to talk to her prior to her parole hearing. And he asks her, what was your coping process in prison? And she says, well, my coping process in prison the first few years was using drugs. She learned that they were available when she saw other women getting high. So she was able to get a hold of Suboxone pills, which is, I guess, used for people recovering from opioid addiction. And
Fallon, spoken like a true not former drug addict.
I'm sorry.
Suboxone.
I don't know.
Oh, I mean, I know. Obviously, you haven't spent time in a lot of rooms with.
Don't make fun of my
addicts.
Sobriety.
I know, like, God, wow, you've like so never been an alcoholic or drug addict. And
oh my God, you're so green. You already know me. I have Longaberger baskets in my house and I frame puzzles. So
Thomas Kincaid ones. Yeah. No, we've lived different lives, but I love you so much.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to pronounce that wrong. Can you say it again? Suboxone?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, Suboxone. It would give her a high, like the pain pills she had experienced when she was living with her mom. So it was very attractive to her. At one point, she says in prison, she owed a girl money from the drugs, like $50 worth. And so she told her mom, meaning Christy, she told Christy that she had broken a girl's CD player so she could pay for the drugs that she owed. And she later confessed to her stepmom. She's like, I don't want to be that kind of person. I don't want to deceive anybody. Like, and Christy says, at the end of the day, I just wanted her to be safe. And, she's changed her behavior since then. And I think she is sober now, but she, that was like originally like her main way of coping.
Oh, so that's fun. Within the first couple episodes, we've added sexual abuse and addiction to her list of traumas. Amazing.
I know.
Jesus fucking Christ on a cracker.
And by the way, pain pills that she would have never needed without an unnecessary, painful, extensive surgery.
Right. Right. Also, by the way, getting off of drugs and alcohol is not great. It doesn't feel good in your mind or body or anywhere. And God, especially doing it in prison sounds
Ugh.
fucking. I mean, going through withdrawal from an opioid in prison? Fuck me.
Christy says that maybe Gypsy had learned lying and manipulation from her mother, but she said she believes that Gypsy is learning not to repeat that pattern. And Gypsy said, you know, this is a direct quote from Gypsy that I specifically wrote down because I thought it was so telling. Gypsy said, "We were bonded by this lie together, like we couldn't escape each other." And she's talking about her mom, not her
Right.
stepmom,
Yeah,
obviously.
no, I know. Fuck.
So Dee Dee in Missouri starts manipulating the community. They go to Habitat for Humanity, who builds them a home, which includes, you know, giant doorways and wheelchair ramps. It's a very nice house, bright pink paint, for free.
I love pink. It's my favorite color, and that house was a fucking monstrosity.
Yeah, probably because you know what was on the inside.
Yeah, but also just that color pink.
That
You
like
don't
light
paint
pink.
like you don't paint a house Pepto-Bismol. Like that's just not the vibe.
This makes me want to quote Steel Magnolias, and because there's a whole thing about like the sanctuary looks like it's been hosed down in Pepto-Bismol. And
I've never
that's just
seen
made with
that.
it. Oh, it's so good. You'll cry 100 times watching that. So
I cry every day already, so bring it.
yeah.
Yeah, I know you. Okay.
Oh, wait, I didn't mean it like that, but
No, but
sometimes
it's okay. I do. So it's okay.
I
I'm
cried
an emotional girl.
I cried yesterday and the day before. It's been a wild week for me,
What
y'all.
is happening? Mercury, are you in Gatorade again?
Oh, I also
Fucker.
I also cried Tuesday.
That's
For anyone who doesn't know
you.
me, that is like 3 more times I normally cry in a year. All right. So
Yeah, no, I regularly cry 4 to 6 times a week. I'm a Cancer, and I'm gonna blame it on that. And it's a really intense world. Are you guys paying attention? What is happening? Please continue.
anyway, so Gypsy says she was really happy because she'd never lived in a house of her own. So when you see her in the videos, like crying into her mother's arms, that's not an act. She knows that she doesn't need the wheelchair ramp and she's not really need a wheelchair, but she just got lost in the motion of being so happy. Somebody comes on and says the house was an extension of the love of the community and it was all a complete scam. The news comes and they do an interview with them where Gypsy tells this heartbreaking little story where she's like, Mama gave me a glass house when I was little and said someday this would be real, and now it is. And she said, yeah, I was highly coached by my mom before that interview to say like dreams really do come true. Like, so around this time, how many animals are in the room today? It's like one of those pictures, spot the animals.
I don't know. There's a fucking elephant in here.
My room is actually covered with elephants.
Hey, it's like a circus in here. It's intense.
It's wild.
Did you get it?
It took me a second.
I was like, hello. Hello. That was a really punny pun. Pun.
Takes me a minute sometimes. I'm not joyless with no sense of humor. Sometimes puns I don't right that second.
I love you. Bless your heart, Fallon.
Oh, hey.
Hey, fuck you.
This town's not big enough for the both of us. All right. So around that time, Dr. Steele says that that his nurse came to him with 3 documents. And each of these 3 documents, there were 3 separate birthdays for Gypsy listed. 1991, same day, different dates. 1991, 1993, and 1995. And these had all been paperwork filled out by Dee Dee. The doctor
And do we
is
know
like,
the actual year she was born?
it's 1991.
So so technically when she was 24, she was 20 in the eyes of the public, but was still acting like she was 12. How old did they think they were? It gets so confusing.
It gets confusing later, and actually that's where we start to sort of like dig into that a little bit. And this is sort of what prompted the doctor. So before the doctor talks about what he did, Gypsy says, I'm worried about them asking me the big question, which in her eyes is, why didn't you just stand up out of the wheelchair, and why didn't you tell someone? And she was like, because I was terrified of my mom. Right?
Yeah. That's a very easy question to ask when you've never been
experienced 16 years of medical abuse.
Yeah, and lived with an abuser who was insanely mentally ill, who you were very afraid of. And
right,
yeah, Dee Dee has all these fucking documents and stuff saying that Gypsy is younger than she is. It's Dee Dee's got the fucking upper hand, 1,000%.
Oh yeah. So the doctor calls the Missouri Department of Family Services. He thinks, based on these birth records at first, or not birth records, he thinks based on these documents that Dee Dee filled out, that Gypsy might have been kidnapped by Dee Dee. He doesn't immediately suspect FDIA. He suspects that she's a victim of kidnapping.
Anybody just tuning in, FDIA is factitious disorder imposed on another, which is the term that is now correct for Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I have our live up on the side, and I was looking at comments in case anything came up or somebody had a question. So, I don't have the fancy display on my screen, so I have to have it
because I'm not bumping up the subscription.
No, I don't, and I don't want the wrench or whatever you have to have. So Gypsy talks about this interview that happened with Child Services. They come to her house. They put her in a separate room from her mom. They start asking her if she has bruises and was this really her mother. And then she said she could hear them from the other room telling Dee Dee to shut the F up. And that's the way she says it. Shut the F up. And being really rude to her. And Gypsy was like, well, it was me and my mom at that point, and we were pretty close. And so I was really scared what was happening. I didn't like what was happening. Basically, DHS told her, you need to obtain a real birth certificate for Gypsy, though. And basically, we're going to come back and check. But then they never came back to follow up.
DHS is Department of Health Services?
No. So the doctor says he called the Department of Family Services, but then they call it DHS. So I don't know. What they're...
It's always called different things in different places.
Different states have different names for the...
For, you said you were looking at the comments, and here's a great one. Shantae. What's up, Shantae? Shantae is a survivor and advocate for, anti-coercive abuse. And she says, just stand up. That kind of statement is why people with any abuse struggle to talk about it. So fucking true.
So true.
Just stand up. What were you wearing? Why didn't you just walk out the door the first time he hit you? Man, we love to blame victims around here.
I know. In my
world.
Past...
Not around here in our little...
No.
Game.
But my past relationship, I definitely got a big degree from people wanting to explain myself, saying, why didn't you just leave? Not a big deal.
Also, fun fact, generally when women are, or people in general, generally when people are in situations with domestic violence, the time that they're in the most danger is when they leave.
Right.
So everybody's like, oh, well, you feel unsafe, just walk away. That's when you're in the most fucking danger. And that's why I'm very passionate about talking about coercive control, because people don't
Get it.
understand it, and they're super fucking judgmental, and like, let's all learn and be nicer. Yay.
Yes. So, yeah, and 100% spot on. It gets me so fired up.
Yeah.
So the doctor didn't know what the agency was doing. So he asked Dee Dee to come in, and he basically said, I want to talk to Gypsy in a separate room for a minute. And Dee Dee was at first reluctant. And then and he went and talked to Gypsy and asked if everything okay. And Gypsy says, and he says that Gypsy was like, oh no, I'm fine. I love my mom. My mom loves me. What are you talking about? And Gypsy at this point, being interviewed from prison, says, how do we all know that the doctors aren't all trying to make it seem like they all did right by me? Like, how do we believe everything they're saying when you interview them? Because, you know, like, nobody did right by me.
What if Gypsy says, yeah, she is abusing me? And they're like, well, we can't really substantiate that or whatever. So sit tight, kid, and we'll be back. Like, if Dee Dee found out that she fucking said anything to anybody, I'm sure the consequences would be tremendous, as we hear about later with some of the crazy shit she does, like handcuffing her to a fucking bed and shit. Oh, the wheelchair, that's not enough. Let's handcuff you and like imprison you.
Also, before he took Gypsy in the other room, he told Dee Dee, I am the one that called the family services department. So he already set her on edge, and then he's like, hold on, I'm going to talk to your daughter privately. Of course she's not. She knows her mom's already all keyed up. She's not going to say anything.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
wow. He does say, if he could tell Gypsy something, he would tell her he was sorry that he failed her, and that maybe even that he suspected FDIA at the time. So it's basically brought up that a lot of people failed Gypsy. Dee Dee was so manipulative. After the home visit, Gypsy said that Dee Dee got even more paranoid. She put filters on. She put filters on all their windows to darken the windows. And Gypsy says it was to avoid people seeing in. But what it also did was made it so that Gypsy could no longer see out. So she was essentially in this like tomb of a house with darkened, covered, filtered windows under her mom's control.
I have to remember to breathe. I'll keep noticing. I'm like, oh, take a breath, Ashley. Like, no wonder she felt the most free ever when she got to prison. She was like, oh, I can see out windows.
Look
here.
at the sunlight.
Sick.
I can stand outside on my own. Gypsy said, she cares what people think of behind her back, and she did for the first few years she was in prison, but now she really just wants to be the best version of herself. She reports that her relationship with her mom was complicated because Dee Dee was either very affectionate or not very affectionate, and she was either let me say that again. Gypsy's mom was either very affectionate because Gypsy was being obedient. So Gypsy would be a good girl and her mom would go get her a new dress or take her and get her a Toys R Us toy. And the next best thing to that was she would show her affection. If not, and she was rebellious, she would just like sit there, Gypsy said, and like stark at her. And
yeah, Gypsy also said that when Gypsy also said that when she did something that Dee Dee didn't like, Dee Dee would favor the cat and just ignore Gypsy and just love on the cat. Oh, good kitty. Go fuck yourself. Just like while staring daggers at Gypsy. Okay,
right.
say go.
And also, like, talk about the continued reinforcing her message that Gypsy's like a tiny little girl. She's now close to 18 years old, and her mom is responding to her being a good girl by buying her Toys R Us stuffed animals. I do like a good cute stuffed animal, but like
That was actually literally my thought right now, but I was like, that's okay, Ashley. It's not relevant.
but like that's her main reward system for an 18-year-old girl.
If you're good, I'll get you a princess dress or a stuffed animal, and if you're bad, I will mentally, physically abuse you and ignore you to hang out with the cat.
So, yeah, basically. So, Dee Dee starts applying to different foundations, anywhere that might have a program that they could get stuff out of. So, she applies to these different wish organizations like Make-A-Wish, and they would get awarded trips. Like, they got a trip to Disney. Gypsy's dad said,
I think fucking Dee Dee just really liked Disney, it sounds.
Yes.
I think Dee Dee was the big Disney file here. Gypsy just wanted to be loved, as she literally said in a direct quote from, in a secondhand direct quote from Christy. Gypsy just wanted to be loved.
You almost Gypsy made me. Oh, sorry.
Did I just almost make you cry by saying that?
I was going to say you almost made me cry in the last episode. Let's not do this again. It broke us last time.
Yeah. Like Gypsy said as a child when she was asked, what do you want for your birthday or Christmas? She said, just to be loved. The little girl in me just
crumbles. I know.
Baby.
So speaking of birthday, Gypsy's dad calls Gypsy to tell her happy 18th birthday. He, Dee Dee says, no, don't tell her that. She thinks she's 14. And like, so at this point, he's like, wait, what? And Gypsy is like, yeah, it was like I was aging in reverse because my cake definitely had like happy 14th birthday on it. And he continued to like try to get a hold of them more regularly at that point after that, but he couldn't. And Gypsy just assumed that Gypsy said, well, I thought that he didn't love me. Like I'd been told he didn't love me, so I didn't miss him. So in the documentary, they say, Gypsy starts to become a true adolescent. I mean, she's almost 18 years old. She's not an adolescent. She's an adult. She had sexual and social needs like anyone else. She'd met a girl down the street and they were nice to each other. I think that's the girl that's pretty heavily documented in the act, her relationship with the girl down the road. And she was jealous about like, that girl could go where she wanted and have boyfriends, and that's
like, have
not
a life.
Yeah. So this cracks me up. Dee Dee starts a Facebook profile, and she had gotten the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society to gift them a laptop, which she gave to Gypsy. And she thought Gypsy was looking at Barbie or Disney websites at 18. But the first thing Gypsy did was go behind her back, she said, and make a Facebook account. And she started to reach out and try to talk to people online. So
also, they had a shared Facebook account. And I got to say, don't trust people with a shared Facebook account. That's fucking weird. Gypsy Rose and Dee Dee Blanchard. Or Matt and Kelly Buchanan.
But you know what?
Matt Buchanan and Kelly Buchanan should have their own Facebooks. That's weird. Don't do that.
My friends who do that are typically the ones who like neither of them use Facebook, but they have this shared account and they just get on there and pass like pictures to their family or something. Like they don't really use it for social interaction.
Okay. I don't know. It's still weird.
So her mom took her, she's like 19 years old. Her mom, she thinks she's 15. Her mom took her to a sci-fi convention, and while she's there, she meets a guy, kind of a little meet cute. He accidentally bumps into her, and she's like, "Ooh, look how handsome he is." So his name was Dan, and after she got home, he found her Facebook profile and they started talking back and forth. Gypsy says it was about movies and TV, but some of it was sexually charged. And she thought he was going to be her knight in shining armor because that's what she had been grown up being told, like princesses, castles, knights, they rescue you. Here's the weird thing. He thought she was 15 and he was 36. Like he had been told she was 15. So he wasn't dating what he thought was a 19-year-old. He thought she was 15.
No.
And she thought, I wish I was a little older so I could date him. And then shortly after, she finds her own Medicaid ID card and realizes that she's actually 19 and was absolutely shocked because she thought she was 15.
Wow.
So again, before she started dating, she thought things were the way they were in Disney cartoons, but clearly that's not how life works. She said she told Dan more and more about her home life, and he was actually the first person she shared with that she was able to walk. And she was relieved to find someone out there to confide in.
Okay, but Dan's a hebephile. If we're going to be super correct with terms, a hebephile.
Yes, but that's what she's describing.
Hebephile is actually, I think, like 11 to 14. I don't remember what 15 and
Ebephile.
Ebephile. Okay, yeah. Pedophile is up to 10. Then 11 to 14 is hebephile. And 15 to 18 is ebephile.
You know how I remembered? Because I just re-listened to our Subway Jared episode that came out last week. And you schooled me on it there. So I was
that
fresh.
Monster. Nice.
It was fresh in my mind.
Nice. Yeah. So obviously gross, though. Up.
Yes.
Up. It's you. It's you.
That one was me. And for some reason, when my ring light is plugged in, it makes funny noises. Okay. Anyway.
Okay.
We'll investigate that later.
Yeah. All right.
Dee Dee received SSI, so like Social Security benefits for having a sick child, and she got extra benefits because of the nature of Gypsy's illnesses. So there's someone on there that they speak to who basically says if Gypsy had left her, Dee Dee would have lost her whole lifestyle. Like Gypsy obviously was sustaining Dee Dee's life at this point.
Right.
Meanwhile, Gypsy is talking to Dan, who is telling her she could just leave and he would take care of her. He would take her to his farm and somewhere, and he would take care of her and they would live on his farm together. So Gypsy says one night she had stolen her mom's phone out of her purse. She was texting Dan and he said, "Is tonight the night we can run away together?" So Gypsy packed a bag. She took princess costumes and a blonde wig because she had no other clothes easily available to her.
Oh my God.
Just fucking sad. She stole some cash and her mom's pain pills, and she left a runaway note. She said in the note, "I'm 19 and I love you, but I want to live my own life and it's time for me to leave." So very adult sort of, I know I'm an adult now. Like I can leave.
Yeah.
So she tried. So she's obviously still terrified, though, of her mother. She walks out the back door and hitchhikes to where she's supposed to meet Dan, which is at one of his friends' houses. When she gets there, she finds out that Dan is on parole, which she doesn't even know what this means because she's never been exposed to anything. And that means that he can't leave the state, certainly not to whisk her away to his magic farm and take care of her forever. So she is immediately worried that Dee Dee is going to find her. And that's actually where our episode ends. The preview for next week the next episode saying that Dee Dee basically starts at the chaining her to the bed stuff at this point. So
I have mixed feelings here right now, though, because Gypsy at that point really was very unexperienced in the world, and it sounds like Dan was not a good man.
No, I don't think Dan was a good man. I was like,
and I don't know what Dan would have done if Dee Dee didn't show up. So I don't trust Dan.
No,
Dan
no,
is a
I don't.
liar who's on parole and who's trying to fuck a 15-year-old. So I'm
What he thinks is a 15-year-old.
right. So I'm kind of glad that situation got intervened on, even though it led to Gypsy being even more horrifically abused. But so I'm not glad. I'm glad that she got away from Dan at all, because
is it like the devil you know versus the devil you don't know situation there?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't honestly remember from the story. I guess I'll find out tonight if Dee Dee came and got her or she went home like on her own accord. But she just ends by saying she's like terrified that Dee Dee's gonna find her. Like that's
Dee
her
Dee
first
comes
thought.
and gets her.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
And is like, she's a fucking minor, blah blah blah. And
oh wow,
I forgot how she finds her, but she finds her quick, within like 4 hours.
Well, she was using her phone to like text him, so she probably didn't delete all her messages or something.
Or like
anyway,
turn the location off or something.
That is episode 2 of the Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard.
I mean, I know this story, but I am learning more. And gosh, poor Gypsy, dude. Just all of this is just so fucked.
So
it's one of the craziest. It's one of the craziest, like, singular cases of child abuse that I've ever heard of. You know, there's like, sometimes there's like these, you know, in cults and stuff, there's lots of children being horrifically abused on a mass scale. But as far as like a one-on-one type of situation, I feel like this has got to be like one of the most horrific cases of abuse I've ever heard of.
Yeah, for sure. There's one other case that I've heard of that's probably as bad. It's more physical abuse stuff, and it was very famous. Like, I think back in the 90s, a guy wrote a book how he was like badly abused by his mother.
A boy called it?
Yeah, that one.
I've been into the most fucked up shit since I was a kid. I read that when I was like 11.
Yeah, same. And it ruined me. What is wrong with
I know. Oh my God. No, she like, and he had...
Yeah, I don't want to
remember the book.
I remember everything I read in that book, and it's awful. But I mean, it's definitely not a competition, but you don't hear about
terrible.
You just don't hear about cases like this very often, and this is awful in so many levels, because she'd also sort of turned the immediate world around Gypsy against her. Like, if Gypsy thought, okay, authority figures can be fooled by my mother, who is going to help me?
My family can. Everybody can. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, nobody will believe. I'm sure she felt like nobody would believe her.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah. It's like I want to watch tonight to like hear the continuing story, but I'm like, oh God, I need like, I don't know, some ice cream or something to calm my spirit down.
Ice cream. Yeah, I watched Hell Camp for the second time yesterday, about the troubled teen industry and children getting horrifically abused and dying in wilderness therapy camps. And now I'm going to go watch a little bit about Natalia Grace and the horrific abuse that she endured by the Barnetts. So,
oof.
Yay! No, but like, really, the through line in all of these cases, aside from child abuse, is coercive control. Coercive control is people controlling other people through fear. Coercion is like fear-based control. So Natalia Grace, Gypsy Rose, and children who are victims of the troubled teen industry are all victims of coercive control. Like, essentially, cults are everywhere. Some of them are benign, and some of them that are coercively controlling are totally fucked. This is a completely cult-like situation, one-on-one family cult. And
Yeah.
I'm busy and it's a little overwhelming, but I'm glad that all of this is kind of getting brought up at the same time because you can point out, it's like, look at how Gypsy Rose was being controlled through fear. Look at how these kids in the troubled teen industry are being controlled through fear. If you guys don't watch Hell Camp, listen to the convo I had about it last night with Trevin, although there might be some annoying audio issues, which is super annoying. But also it's I did an episode with Meg, the founder of Unsilenced, about I have a ton of troubled teen industry content because it's something I'm very passionate about. So
this is like the accidental TSFUP season about children of coercive control. I mean, there it is. CCC.
Because also, you know, Natalia Grace was absolutely a fucking child with very many disabilities and needs who got adopted and then abused and abandoned by her adoptive parents. And they absolutely controlled her through fear and intimidation and by isolating her. And so, and yeah, the documentary out now is the second season of The Curious Case of Natalia Grace. And this season is Natalia speaking. So it's really, really cool to be hearing Gypsy Rose and Natalia Grace speaking for themselves for the first time instead of hearing the narrative that's been spun by the media and the public. So if you're following Gypsy Rose's case and not doing so with compassion, and you are getting up in the gossip mill and getting your news from TikTok and spreading rumors, I would highly fucking encourage you to look within yourself and realize that this woman has been horrifically abused her entire life. She's now being exploited by the public, and maybe go fuck yourself. Or like keep your comments to yourself if you can't understand that at all and you can only see, oh, she killed her mom. Like, I'm just, the lack of compassion that I'm seeing is just like, I mean, she's getting a lot of support, but also just a lot of people don't fucking understand whatsoever and are very ignorant and cruel. And it's so disheartening to see. Like, I think I just get so irritated because as a survivor of trauma, like the whole narrative of let's protect the perpetrators and blame the victims and the prevalence of it is just like mind-boggling and infuriating.
Well, and let's be very clear. At no point does Gypsy ever say, I don't take responsibility for my mom's death. I didn't do it. Like, she very openly says, like, I take responsibility and I should have done anything else, but it was her or me. Like, she's very clear. Also,
yeah, sorry.
Oh,
she also says that she goes, I mean, my mom shouldn't be dead. She should be sitting where I am in prison doing time for her crimes.
Right.
So she says, right. I felt that it was me or her, and I shouldn't have murdered her because, you know, that's not cool. She should have gone to jail. But hey, this is all the cookie crumbles, right?
But some of the same people drives me crazy that think that Gypsy should just be labeled as a murderer are the same people who say, yeah, if somebody came to my door and threatened to walk into my house, I would shoot them. Like, I would be within my right to shoot them. Right. Like,
right.
So how is that more trauma than this girl endured? That's bananas.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. So
I would also just encourage you. This is just my 2 cents. Fallon's 2 cents.
And it's so funny because it's like probably not our listeners who need to hear that because they're generally really fucking awesome. But hey, tell your friends.
No, tell 2 friends. If you are watching this and you're not a typical listener, if you got that little tidbit of hot gossip from TikTok, you had the 2 minutes to watch the TikTok video. Take 2 minutes to go on Google and see if it's correct before you
check the facts.
Flame spray a girl about it, right?
Yeah, totally.
That's all I gotta say about that.
And that's all I have to say about that. Also, which bummer, found out that Tom Hanks sent his son Chad to a troubled teen industry facility. Fucking Tom Hanks. God damn it. Although I really am trying to be more understanding of the fact. It's so funny. I fucking bring up this book in like every episode. That the troubled industry is very good at conning and manipulating parents. So Tom and Rita, I don't really care about Rita, but Tom, if you're watching or listening, I doubt you are, but I'm not happy with you about that. Although I understand that that industry is very good at tricking parents, and I really don't think that they expect their kids to go get abused and tortured. So anyways, you guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will be back soon.
Yeah,
We have not
soon.
planned a second recording date yet, but I'm guessing
We will. Monday?
probably Monday we'll be back with episodes 3 and 4.
Let's have a dinner date. Let's have a not cheese ravioli from Chef Boyardee, but any other dinner. Bring your dinner. Listen to us chat about Gypsy Rose.
Yes. Yeah, because if you guys, don't want to have to go, don't be mad at us, Lifetime, but you're hard to find and stream. So, if you guys are lazy or poor, I totally get it. just watch or listen to our recaps because we got the Lifetime for you. So, okay, guys, hope you have a fantastic Saturday. We've got Shantae Pitts here in the chat. She is a friend of mine. She's a survivor of a coercive group, and she's fucking awesome. And we're going to be talking today about the curious case of Natalia Grace. And we're probably going to be doing that live. It's not 100% yet, but probably. So, subscribe to the channel. Come on, you guys. You want to get those ring ding notifications when I go live, since it generally happens kind of randomly. And I tend to schedule it 15 to 30 minutes before it's happening. So I give people a lot of time to plan for it.
My husband the other day was like, she was on earlier making muffins. And I was like, hey, you know our YouTube schedule better than me.
Did you see Ashley making muffins this morning?
I did not, but he was like, oh yeah, she was making muffins earlier.
You know what's really funny is I only tagged 3 people in the Discord, and they came, and it was just us 4.
It's so funny.
Having muffin time.
Well, on our TV, when we pull up YouTube, like whatever you're doing is like popped up at the front. So it'll be like, oh, Ashley's dyeing her hair blue. Let's watch after dinner or whatever.
I really kind of missed out on an opportunity to make some potentially really lucrative Avatar porn, or like X-Men porn or Smurf porn. I don't know. There was I feel like I could have hit a lot of markets when I was entirely blue.
And we haven't signed off the podcast part of the episode, so that's a great way to,
That's a great way to end it. And like Joanna said, longtime listener, Joanna, what's up? Again, you guys, this is on the YouTube live at TSFU the podcast live. Joanna said TikTok will be the death of us, and
I agree.
I fully fucking agree too. So that's the end message. Really, is probably listen to more TikToks. No, listen to more podcasts. Watch more documentaries. Stay off the TikTok, you guys. It's the end of civilization as we know it. But you know
For
what?
sure.
Like REM said, I feel fine. I don't know if I feel fine actually, but it is what it is. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Da, 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 da. Hey. Da, na, 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 na.